to have a sustainable future? Is this all the environment help that that environment needs from us? We are very lucky that we have an expert in this field to tell us about the future strategies using the circular economy. She is an expert in this field. She is a TEDx speaker, and she knows what she is talking about because she has hands-on experience in it. And I don't know if you have heard this name or not, Zero Waste Shanghai, but I have heard this name before, and I have seen in magazines and in newspapers, some blogs, I have read this name. So we are very lucky that all the way from Belgium this evening, we are going to listen from a real expert in this field. So let's give a big round of applause to our online speaker, Alizee, CCM.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me well here online. I'm super excited to be speaking with you today. I wish I could be on stage with you right now and talk with you in person and ask you questions, but we'll have to do it from here. So I'm in Belgium, and I'll just share my slides with you now, and then we can get started. Let me just, there we go. There. Okay, I think you should be able to see my slides here. So, hi everyone. So I'm super excited to be here. I'll be talking with you today in the next 20-25 minutes about leadership and sustainability. I was asked to share a bit of my personal experience in sustainability and leadership. Leadership is a word that I only allowed myself to accept in the last 2-3 years. So it's I thought it would be nice to take you with me through memory lane and unravel it together with like I did. So again, like I was introduced, my name is Alizee CCM. I'm the founder of Zero Waste Shanghai. People consider me as a circular economy expert. I spoke at TEDx twice. And today I work with big brands and organizations on environmental and sustainability strategies. I'm currently also pivoting to another side of my industry, which is more creative. And I'm now also becoming a documentarist, I'm a photographer, and I'm a writer. So like I said, let's head back down to memory lane and kind of give you an idea of where it all started for me. Here you see a picture of me and my dad. I grew up in a natural environment. My dad is someone who cooks at home, and he's very conscious, especially from the food that we used to eat. So like he would buy organic before it was cool to buy organic food. He would also only cook food that was in season. So we would never have tomatoes in winter because tomatoes don't grow in winter and all of these things. So I would spend my summers living under a tent, making my own oven, things like this. So a natural environment. And in 2014, I had the opportunity to come to Shanghai for 6 months. And many people ask me about the culture shock. It was not so much the culture, but it was especially the shock of lacking of the natural environment. But even this, I didn't really realize until a couple of months into my experience. I loved Shanghai. I think I speak for many of us that we love the city. There's an energy there. So before I could continue my life there, I headed back to Europe to study my postgraduate. And that's where everything changed for me. My last course was called Sustainable Luxury, which was basically a week of watching depressing documentaries about how bad the planet was doing, the dark side of chocolate, which as a Belgian is heartbreaking, fashion and things like this. And I was speaking to someone who said, you know what, if you like this concept, you're going to love the circular economy. So I go back home and I type in The Circular Economy by Ellen MacArthur, and I find myself watching this video on YouTube. This is a 30-minute video. I had to pause it 3 times because I felt a rush of passion and purpose and energy, and I had to catch my breath. And I knew right there and then that this was going to be part of my journey, part of my purpose. So in order for me to explain the circular economy, I'm going to explain to you right now. It's easier for me to explain the linear economy first. The linear economy is the economy in which we are right now. It's an economy where we extract resources from the earth, we make a product, we sell it, we use it, and when we're done using it, we throw it away because we don't have a solution for what to do with things that have lost their value. So it's a very linear process. In nature, nothing is linear. Everything is circular. The concept of waste doesn't exist. Even a whale who dives into the ocean will be eaten and completely consumed down to the bone marrow. So right now we're moving towards a recycling economy where we think, okay, we have this product, but we're going to find a way to maybe recycle a little bit. We'll see how we can make it like huanbao, like sustainable. But it's very inefficient. It's chemical intensive, it is water intensive, it is energy intensive. It's not even like making money or anything else. It's very inefficient system, but I do believe it's part of the process. The circular economy, however, we're going to think completely different. We're not going to think, okay, now we have a problem, how do we solve it? It's like, we designed this product in a way to be a problem. So we have to go all the way to the beginning and look at how can we design this product, this phone, this machine, this bag, whatever, and how can we design it in such a way that at the end of its life cycle, when the customers are done using it, we can take it back. We can very easily disassemble it and re-inject the materials back into the supply chain. So how can we do this in the most easiest way? And that's where it's really interesting for companies, because that's where they're not reliant on the raw materials anymore. They can own them and they can keep reusing and reusing them. So that's everything that I do today is underpinned by this concept. But it wasn't always like this. When I discovered the circular economy, I was really young. I was in my early 20s. And back then, my environment would have described me as shy, but determined. I'm a good listener. I speak little, but I speak fast. So not really something that you would say like, oh, she's a good person to be on stage, to influence and maybe lead a movement. Absolutely not. But I believe that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it or how you choose to react to it. For me, I started doing like a lot of research. I was completely obsessed with it. And the circular economy for me became really a window into the future. It became a solutions to problems. And so I was doing research on it and I was sharing this with friends. And then they started to like sharing it with their friends, etc. But before even all of this, like I was getting all of this knowledge and my internal world was changing, but I was frustrated because my external world did not change. Nothing was happening. And sure, like we need regulations from governments to improve that. We need companies to change the way that they produce. But at 23 years old, you don't have access to those solutions. So you do the first thing that everybody does when you want to change something, you change yourself. And so I give myself the challenge to become zero waste in 1 year in Shanghai. And that really inspired my friends and then their friends. We had a WeChat group called Zero Waste Shanghai at the time, just very simple. And yes, it kind of grew from there. And people always saw me as the person with all the solutions. And I was, again, shy and spoke little, and I was not really sure how to navigate it, but people came over and over again to me. At some point, organizations came, restaurants, they said, come and do workshops. And I had never did a workshop in my life. So I asked the community, what do you want to learn? And from there, we created the first workshops. Then these workshops became team building events. And so yeah, so it kept on growing. And in 2016, I started this company in Shanghai. And from then on, we kept on growing. We hired more people, and people who would come to my workshops were businesswomen, businessmen, leaders. And they said, they said, well, she has something interesting, because I would always explain what the system, what the circular economy was, how we got there, why is this workshop important, why is this workshop going to help them. And then they thought, okay, she knows what she's talking about. Let's get her into our company and let us help, like let her help us to make changes. And so that's how we grew to a company. We created a lot of content for WeChat and for our website. We created more programs for companies. We focused heavily on education and training first, even though I was ready to do like waste audits and consulting, which we did afterwards. Then we would really look at companies and we would do an audit and we would gather the data on how we could improve their waste flow and how we could create new revenue streams. So that was really interesting. And then we would consult them and finding solutions with them. And then in 2020, we had to change the way that we did everything because it was a pandemic. And so then we created online products that companies could buy and give to their sustainability managers to then continue the work and without us having to be there. So that grew our impact way more because it was online and we could reach way more companies and have way bigger impact on those things. But 2020 also brought a personal shift, and I really went inwards and I started to ask myself a lot of questions, because even though the circular economy is a concept where I feel extremely aligned in terms of values and vision, I wasn't really aligned in the way that I was living it. And I realized that what I was missing was my natural environment. And I had been in Shanghai for 7 years up until that point, and I was in this concrete jungle that I loved. But I realized that if I wanted to have more impact, if I wanted to grow as a person, I had to leave it. And so that's what I did. And last year in the summer, I rented an electric car in Shanghai. And with my dog, I put some things in there, like a solar panel. I could basically live out of this thing. And I drove around China to understand sustainability on a big, much broader level. Throughout my years in China, before, I met incredible, inspiring people who were at the verge of like creating new solutions. I heard about a person who was making surfboards in Hainan from recycled plastic, a sustainability designer who only works with materials around her town, an architect who was reinventing countryside living for modern Chinese, solar panels, etc. It's so many cool people. So I thought, I'm just going to go meet them. And so I did. So I took my car, I drove around, I met those people, and I photographed them, I documented them, I filmed them, and then I wrote a book about it. So I'm really happy. I finished writing the book this month, and I hope it will be available for sale in China by early next year. But this really allowed me to have a way broader perspective. But also, it was amazing because that vision that I had of China and sustainability 5-6 years before really came to life in front of me while I was driving through the country. It was incredibly inspiring. So from that point on, people even give me more credit in terms of leadership and sustainability in China and the circular economy. The deeper I went into the country, the deeper I went into this concept and understanding of just the country and the concept of sustainability at large. So this is my journey. And for the second part of the presentation, I wanted to focus more on the concept of leadership. So basically what I do, as many futuristic and visionaries, I suppose, is that we are navigating a future, but the future is unknown and the future can change at any point. So what I want to do with you in this session is share with you how I today look back and understand what I did and what worked and how people perceived me like this before I even accepted myself, and maybe give you some ideas of learnings that I had along the way. So for me, I spent a lot of time in my head. I am someone who dreams a lot. I thought this was a bad thing, but it turned out to be a good thing. So for me, I have a very clear vision of what I want, what the future looks like. And so I need to have a very clear vision. It's part intuition, part study. I think the intuition is there, but you have to also understand in the market and the world in which you operate when you have that vision. What you also need, I think, is a high level of self-awareness and self-knowledge, which I was definitely lacking at the beginning. I think it's really important to understand that your convictions and everything comes from your inner strength, because when you are debating or pushing or talking about a future, you will have people who don't agree with you, and they will come out and tell you. And to be unshakable in like your vision, you need to also understand that you don't have all the answers and that you might be wrong, and owning up to this without being out of balance internally. So I think that's a really big part, and I had to learn this in the last years. And once that is really strong, then I can go and invite others to join me. So then my responsibility as a leader or leadership in this field is to paint a picture, give examples, inspire people through things that I see, but make it very visual, and really bring it in from my head into the physical world. Invite people to collaborate for sure, but keep your hands on the wheel. I had made the mistake of sharing the wheel sometimes with other people, and it just did not work out for me. So it's important for me to have a co-pilot, that's for sure, maybe some people in the back, but I need to keep my hands on the wheel. I know where I'm going. In sustainability and circular economy, I also had to understand that it's a very young industry. We may have been speaking about it for decades, but truly the industry in itself has just begun. Many things are subject to change very fast. Facts are always challenged, and I'm dealing with an almost intangible threat and progress. So all of this together are just things I have to be aware of and also acknowledge, but without losing my guiding star, without losing my vision. And I think the thing that helped me the most, beside the fact that I'm very stubborn and determined, is to have values. For me, my values were my guiding stars. They were my guides throughout all these years. My values are very well defined. They're basically written in stone. They're things that barely change, and they really shake up. If something goes against my values, I feel it in my body. It's really, really strong. And my values provide a foundation for everything else, because with experience and time, other roads are going to appear. Things are going to be, like I said, they're going to be challenged. Some things you thought were true are not going to be true anymore. So I have to remain open to other opinions and ideas. This is something I had to learn. New information will always come. I need to remain flexible with my beliefs, but at the same time, trusting my guts and have a really good common sense. So it's always about like, okay, the information, but like, how do I feel about this? Is this something that I could stand behind? Do more research if I have to, and all these things. So I tell people that I have been all on the spectrum when it comes to my industry. I have been zero waste at some point. I really was not making any waste, generating any waste in my life. I was so stubborn and so extreme in the way that I thought about energy, about food waste, about these strategies that I thought every single company had to implement, every government had to do. And that was not that wasn't the healthiest way for me to live and to operate. On the other side, I have been on the complete opposite before. When I was younger, I just was completely I was not conscious of any of this. So I've really been at both extremes, and now I find myself somewhere in between. And this is somewhere where I feel stronger because I'm able to flow with life, and I'm able to understand and basically move with my industry and the people. So in the end, it's really a question of balance. Balance is not something that you achieve standing still. Balance is something that you achieve while moving forward and always getting out of balance and back into balance. So I think we all know that progress is not linear. Sometimes progress looks as if we're going backwards, but it's only two redirects. And I think when it comes to leadership, at least the way that I have experienced leadership and only owning up to it now, I think that's a really important lesson for me. People used to keep me at very high standards when I was leading Zero Waste Shanghai. Like I was expected to be perfect, and I even held myself to that standard, but that's not always possible. And I think adding some humanity and flexibility to my vision and to the way that I lead has definitely helped me a lot. So yeah, if I have to summarize my experience with leadership, I would say that it's important to keep the vision alive, because you can have a vision in your head, but you have to make it alive and tangible for the people who are not in your heads, right? So you have to pin that picture and be creative and express yourself in ways, and that can look many different ways. Move with the industry and the people. Don't stay stagnant in your ideas. The world is constantly shifting, constantly changing. Like, move with it, be flexible. Listen. That's a really big one as well. Listen to the people who definitely to those who disagree with you. And if you're able to listen and taking out the personal part of it, where whatever that person is saying to you, you don't take it personally. You're just listening as a complete neutral person, then you're really going to listen to the fears, the doubts, maybe sometimes the ideas that people give you, instead of being so caught up in like making sure that you're right. At least that was definitely in my case. So I really learned how to tune out and remove my personal emotions from the situation and really listen just to what the person has to say. And because there is information there, and there's information that I can use to improve my speech, to improve the way that I communicate, and to improve the products that I put out into the world. And also, like, to own your position. Like I said, I did not want to be in a position of leadership at the beginning. I rejected it. I put other people there, but in the end, it was people wanted me. So it's important, I think, to own your position, but in a bube bukang kind of way, where like you're not too humble about it, like I used to be, but you're also not arrogant that you think you're the king of the world. I think there's a balance to be found over there. So yes, so in summary, this is my experience with leadership. I know we have quite a bit of time still for questions, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about sustainable strategies, if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to connect with you now over questions. So please, first of all, thank you so much for showing interest in this topic and into my industry. And I'm really looking forward to your questions. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you very much, Alizee. Let's give her a big round of applause. Thank you. Okay, so now we have the opportunity to ask any questions. If you have been thinking about anything you would like to ask her, now is your time. Yes, Joanna.
Yeah, I have a question. I think sustainability is very important, but nowadays the world is a little bit messy, kind of like the world is going on. So whenever I was thinking about the environment, but the real situation can be very cool. So what will that affect your belief, your value, in this stage of the world?
Yeah. I love your question. Thank you so much, Joanna. I really love your question. I think the world will always be messy. So I cannot, so I think the world is messy as right now because we are in a period of transition, and sustainability is very important. And I feel the world is now in this position where we have to move from one system to another, and usually transitions are messy. So it only strengthens my belief in what I do and in what I'm trying to convey. Again, like, I've been to many ups and downs, and I've seen like countries do things that I don't agree with, and then countries like China who move very fast and who give me like a lot of hope. So no, I don't think the messiness of the world is challenging me. I think I'm expecting it to be messy much longer, and maybe in some ways stronger in some parts of the world. But that only strengthens my belief that we're on the right path.
So thank you very much. Another question? Yes, Kelvin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alizee, for sharing. I can really relate to how you said that you were a shy person and also that sometimes you are thrust into a leadership position. My question is that, can you share with us some of your daily routines that you think is very important for you to be successful? Thank you.
Wow, good question. Yeah, sure. I think my daily routine is I give time to my mind, I give time to my spirit, and I give time to my body. So every day, I'm not very consistent, like in terms of hours, but I am consistent in the activities that I do every day. I work out every day, whether that's in the gym or going for a run or just doing yoga. I move my body every day. It gives me so much energy. And when I run usually, or when I spin, I reach a level, I reach a consciousness in my mind and a level of ideas and visualization that I don't usually have. So that's the first one. I eat, it's very simple, but like I eat very like according to what my body wants. I don't eat 3 meals a day. I really I give my body the nutrients that it needs. I think that's also important to have a clear mind and to remain focused. And I think other things is like I self-taught myself discipline. So for example, when I have a goal, like I give 2-3 hours a day to that goal. So like for 8 months, I was writing a book every day for 2 to 3 hours. I was writing that book, and that discipline really just helps me. And I challenge myself all the time, that as well. But again, that changes. But yeah, I'd say in my mind, it's like, what do I do for fun every day, for my spirits? Like, what do I want? Sometimes that's going outside for a walk with my dog. Sometimes that's reading. So something for my soul, something for my body, something for my mind. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Alizee. Let's give her a big round of applause.